Salutare prieteni și bine ați venit la 60 de minute cu Remax, o nouă emisiune într-un format nou cu un invitat nou. Astăzi, în cele 60 de minute, o să vorbim cu un prieten vechi, un om foarte important pentru noi, Remax România, vorba despre Gil Liran, un titan al industriei imobiliare din Europa, un om care este în conducerea Remax Israel de foarte mult timp, el vine din Israel, din Tel Aviv, un om care e implicat la nivel european și poate chiar dincolo de granițele Europei în procesul ăsta de training al agenților imobiliari și al profesioniștilor imobiliare, așa că să-i spunem bun venit lui Gil Liran. So, welcome back to Cluj.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here again.
How are you?
Very well. Feeling at home, as usual.
Yeah, we started many years ago.
Yes.
I mean, 8 years ago.
Working together,
Yeah,
yes.
working together. Yeah, we invited you for our first event convention here in Cluj. We were at the time, I don't know, 30 some people. And now we move forward a little bit.
It's a pleasure to see, and I'm sure we'll get to this subject later.
Yes.
I'm very proud of the progress that Remax Romania has made, and I know it's nothing compared to the future of the region.
Yes, the future is bright.
Absolutely.
Okay, so who is Gil Liran?
I've been with Remax of Israel, like you said, for 14 and a half years as a trainer, head of marketing of our academy, working with agents, working with broker owners, helping to grow the region to where it is right now, which is number 3.
You're also involved
Europe.
in other countries?
Involved in Remax
Yes.
Germany very
Germany.
much because there's a part ownership there from Remax Israel, and I trained almost everywhere in the world for Remax, from Japan and Korea to the US.
Las Vegas and
Yes. All
Bucharest and Iași and Timișoara.
All these large cities, Las Vegas, Timișoara.
Yeah.
Of course.
So that's why I wanted to mention.
Yes.
So, I'm very happy to have you here at this show. I think it's a interesting topic to talk about the real estate market in Israel. How is
Sure.
it?
Super hot, but I need to give you some reference. Israel for many years has the same model of low supply and high demand because the country is small, not a lot of ground to build on, and not a lot of new developments. And on the other hand, families in Israel are usually bigger, definitely bigger than Europe, more children per family, immigration that comes into the country from other countries. So there's higher demand and lower supply, and that creates very hot market. Prices are always on the increase for the last 20-something years. And then you add to this fire COVID-19 over the last 2 years. We had 3 lockdowns. The last one was in January 21, but we had 3 lockdowns over the period of, let's say, 2020, 2021. So a lot of things froze artificially. And when you freeze things artificially, it becomes a bottleneck or a pressure cooker.
Yes.
And then it releases. And what we saw in the last year and a half, since July, I would say July 2020, but definitely the last year, we saw an explosion of transactions, prices going up by even 10, 15% in 1 year. So it's...
I think also the inflation was one of the factors
that it's
that
very
contribute.
low. You mean that it's very low, the interest rates are very low?
Yeah, the interests are very low. Government are printing money, so...
No, in Israel, no. So in
No?
Israel, you have...
But on the global scale, I mean...
I don't know, globally, I'm less aware of what happens in every country,
Yes.
but in Israel, the inflation is very low. You used to be at least, and the interest rates are very low, so it's very cheap to lend money to get a mortgage. So a lot of investors buy second apartment, third apartment, and also in COVID-19, like in every crisis, people finally understand, or again understand, that you need to put your money in real estate because the stock exchange and other opportunities that are
Volatile.
Yeah, exactly. So in crisis, people are always, whoa. Let's go back to real estate. Let's go back to the basics.
Yeah, brick and mortar.
So we saw an increase in investors and an increase in regular sales. Remax of Israel, our best years, we used to do like 8,000 transactions, and in 2021, 11,000.
Wow.
So it's a huge increase.
Wow.
It was the best year by far, and it was an insane market.
So related to the prices, can you give us an average price per square meter or per type of unit?
I can give you an average. It would be statistically not valid because the differences are huge between the north and the south, where you have much cheaper, to the center in Tel Aviv, where it's much more expensive. But I would say that a 3-bedroom apartment of around 80 square meters, 80, 85, would go on average for 400,000 euros.
Wow. So that's like 5,000 euro per square meter.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
On average,
Cool.
you can
On
find
average.
much cheaper, you can find more expensive.
Wow.
Depends where you buy.
Awesome. So yeah, I'm trying to calculate and to compare with our market. It's like 4-5 times
More expensive.
more expensive on
Well,
average.
When you do these comparisons, you also have to compare average salary, earning power.
Yeah, of course, many other indicators.
Yes, but and remember that Israel has a shortage of listings, so the prices are inflated, not artificially, but really inflated because there's not enough listings to buy.
yeah,
So that's a problem.
yeah. And how is the real estate agent, the market perception about the real estate agent as a professional?
It's a good question because, like in many countries, this industry for many years was basically made of a lot of opportunists looking for easy money, big transactions, and it created a negative perception of real estate agents. But I know it's not unique to Israel. It happens in other countries as well, because people were not getting value for their paying a real estate
Customers,
agent.
yes,
Yeah, if it's a buyer or a seller, they weren't getting any value. They were like, what am I paying you for? Because it would be like, I would be walking with you into a listing, you were my buyer, and I would be like, okay, this is the kitchen and this is the living room. And you'd be like, wow, thank God you told me where the kitchen is. Like I would never have found out on myself.
Important contribution,
Yes,
yes.
thank God. So they were like, okay, and for this I have to pay you like 10,000 euros for finding the kitchen. So people were unhappy, disappointed. And I can say that Remax came to Israel in 1995, 96. So, and the influence of Remax is beyond just our network because a lot of our competitors studied with us or came from us. I think today the professional level is much higher and people understand that you cannot really fool customers. You have to give them value, you have to give them good service, but it's still not 100% there. There's a lot of work to do.
A lot of room to grow. I mean,
A lot of room to grow. So what is a good indicator? For sale by owners. For those who don't know the term, for sale by owners, people who don't use real estate agents at all for selling their house. In Israel, we estimate it's at least 50% of the market. So that means that 50% of the people are not showing confidence in real estate agents when they sell their house or not seeing the value.
So they're trying to sell by their own.
Succeeding to sell on their own. I'm saying 50% sales.
From the transactions.
Yes. And 50% are done by agents, but from the 50% by agents, some of them started as for sale by owners and were convinced in the process to work with an agent. So there's still a lot of work to do, but I'm also very proud to say that I personally know dozens of agents who are super professional, who are taking this occupation to the next level of professionalism that we can learn from. So I'm very optimistic.
Cool. And in terms of education, because we share the same idea that
Yes.
education is very important in
Crucial.
this field, and you're one of the pillars of the educational system in Remax.
Titan, you said.
Yeah, a titan, yes, on a European level. Why do you think education is important in this industry for real estate agents? I mean,
Well, the irony is
because
that
this is something quite new in Romania. We don't have a educational system for this profession, and some of the clients, some of the people in this industry, they don't. Maybe they think different about education. So what is your
So first of all,
thought?
it's a great observation because in other professions, it's not even a question, right? You don't become a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer just because you want to. You understand that you need
Overnight.
to learn. Yes, you need to learn. And for some reason, and also if you go to sales, you want to sell a car, you want to be a salesperson for whatever organization, you know you're going to go through training. No one is going to let you stand in front of a customer on your first day and try to sell a BMW. You have to be trained on how to sell. It doesn't matter if it takes 2 days or 2 weeks. So in other professions, it's natural. In real estate, again, because of the reputation, it's like, hey, I can be a taxi driver during the day, and then for 2 hours I will show houses, and I'm a barber, but I'm also a real estate agent. We still have these phenomena in Israel that it's like a part-time, on the way, by the way, do this profession. But that's the wrong way to do it. You have to train because you have to give value. Customers are very, very clear what they demand. They want good service, they want good results, and this profession is complicated. You need to learn sales, marketing, customer service, real estate, right? The actual real estate that you're selling.
Technical
Yes,
things.
there's a lot to learn. Good agents, they see it as a default. Of course I have to learn. How do you train me? And they ask us good questions. How good is your training? How long is it? What do you cover? What else can I learn? Do you have also stuff online? Or like the good agents, they want to learn. And I can tell you that the really good agents, the top producers, I'll give you two examples, negative and positive. 2 days ago, we had in Israel a 60 Minutes, like an online event, our version of 60 Minutes, which is an online event, live Zoom for prospects who are interested in real estate. And we interviewed an agent that's been with us for 19 years. It's
19 years.
Yes, 19 years. One of our top producers is in a Chairman's Club, which is a Remax club for very
Which
successful.
city? Just by curiosity.
In Herzliya. You know
Okay.
Herzliya? It's just north of Tel Aviv.
Okay.
Very successful agent. And I told the audience about him, one of the things that I always impressed, if we do a training, and he's a super successful agent, he's a Hall of Famer for Remax, he's the first person to register, always. And you'd be like, okay, but why does he need more knowledge? 19
After
years,
19 years, yes.
Hall of Fame, performer, more than $1 million shekels, which is like more than 250,000 euros every year to his business. But he's just obsessed with learning. I was with him in Vegas like 7 years ago in a Brian Buffini. Brian Buffini is a very famous
Yes.
mentor in real estate. And he was sitting first row with a camera that he brought from Israel. And he was like this and filming. And this is a guy who knows how to succeed. But he understands that if he picks up one new tip, one new system, one new sentence that can get him another listing, it's another, 10,000 euros in his pocket. It's always worth the investment. So that's an example of success, of successful people. They always like to learn. The more you learn, the more you earn, right? So but on the other hand, I'll give you an example. We had Tom Ferry in Israel 13 years ago.
Which is another, I don't
very
know,
famous
yeah.
trainer for real estate. And one of our top producers wasn't there. So I remember during the break, I came to this broker owner of the top producer and told him, why is this guy not here? And he told me, you know what he told me when I asked him why he's not registering for this event? He told me, Tom Ferry can learn from me. I was like, okay, interesting. This person not only left Remax like 2 months later, he disappeared from the industry. And
It's a kind of self-limitation. I mean,
yes, it's like arrogance.
Yeah, arrogance,
that
of course.
comes that you pay a huge price for it. So I think education is the #1 tool if you want to have a successful business anywhere, and specifically in real estate. That was, by the way, your vision, because the first thing that you did as a regional owner is invite me to do a
Yes.
training for you
yeah,
guys.
because I felt a huge lack of education. Education, and I was very hunger to find the system solutions, and yeah.
I'll give you an example in Israel that may correlate to things that are on your agenda here in Romania. So in Israel, there is a license for real estate agent, okay? The licensing is a legal exam. What they need to learn to pass this license has nothing to do with what they actually do as real estate agents, because actually as real estate agents, they're not allowed to give legal advice anyway. It's a lawyer's job. So they pass an exam in Israel that has nothing to do with their business. It's very technical, and then they get a license. But there's no requirement for education. So for me, that should be the opposite.
So it's just an exam.
It's just an exam on stuff that is not, almost has no relation to their everyday work. It doesn't make them better. It's not, for me, if you have regulation, licensing, it doesn't matter what you call it, it's supposed to be some sort of a threshold to make sure, as much as you can, that the people who come in are better than the ones who are left out in working with clients. In Israel, it doesn't work like this, because this exam tells me nothing about the ability of this person or his commitment to his clients. There's no requirement for education, no requirement for knowledge. So for me, that misses the point, which you understand how important education is in making sure that the agents are highly professional.
Yes, and about the professionalism, how a client should evaluate an agent in terms of professionalism? What kind of service should be delivered by the agent? What?
Okay, let's talk about sellers for.
Yes, sellers.
for an example. Okay, so beyond your personal appreciation of the other person, does he feel right? Does he look like he's an authentic and reliable person? There are things that you should look for. For example, does he deliver something that is called a CMA? So if anyone who's watching us who's a potential customer for a real estate agent, a CMA is a comparative market analysis. It's a pricing estimate that every agent is supposed to deliver to a home seller. For me, that's the number one marker that you know what you're doing, is that you don't just come in and I look at you and say, yeah, you know your house, I think you can get for it 150,000. No, show me the numbers. Sit down with me, show me a piece of paper, or you can do it digitally, I don't care, but show me the facts.
Help me understand the context.
Yes,
and
why? Why do you think this is the price that I can get? What should be my marketing price? What should be my desired closing price? So great advice about pricing is the number one marker of a professional agent. Second is a marketing plan. I want you to show me your marketing plan. I want a plan in writing. I want a plan that you can demonstrate and visualize to me that you've already done, that it's not something you make up.
Yeah.
Show me examples.
To make my property the most visible one.
Exactly. I want to see where you're advertising, what is your plan, where you're going to put my listing. Is it online, offline, a yard sign on my listing, 3D virtual tour? I want to see what you're doing. And I would want you to commit to at least a certain level of marketing as part of our working together. So marketing, pricing, and for me the most important thing is how do you handle buyers? Because handling buyers is the biggest difference between me as a homeowner who sells privately and you as an agent. You can get me, listen clearly, an agent can get you, the homeowner, a better price than you can get on your own, not because he's more talented, but because the way the system works, a third party, a representative like you are for me, can generate more interest in the house, work in collaboration with other agents, drive the price up through competition, and deliver for me the highest possible price. So working with buyers, I want to know what's your process, how you screen them, how you document them, and how you get them excited about my house. And another factor is cooperation. I want to know that you work together with other agents. If you're working solo, that should worry me, because then I'm putting all my eggs in one basket of a person who is not transparent with the market.
Yeah, and you limitate my chances of, being exposed to as many buyers.
Exactly. I want you to let me know that you work in collaboration with other agents, you have a clear marketing plan, a clear pricing scenario to share with me, and that you're very professional in working with buyers. These would be, for me, boxes that I want to check, say, okay, so this person is professional.
Cool. Excellent. And about an agent, because I am, moving from the agent side to the client side, what would be the most important, issues to take care when an agent would join an office? I mean,
you mean like tips for what makes a good agent, what they should do, what should
no,
be their routine?
when an agent wants to join the industry.
Yes, what they should look for?
Yes,
okay.
That's the simplest
Perfect.
question.
So, great question. First of all, obviously I'm biased a little bit because I think that you offer the best platform, but I'll give you the tools to evaluate eventually what you need. So why would you join an office? Well, a lot of people understand today that if you get guidance, if you get coaching, mentoring, training, you save a lot of money. You can start a business on your own. You can start and become an agent on your own with no network. You can even do it from your car or from your house. We have people in Israel who do it that way. But then all the mistakes that you make are your mistakes to learn. You need to learn from your own experience, and that costs money. For me, when you join an office, especially in a network, in a brand that has a lot of experience, you take a shortcut to success because they give you the tools, they give you the knowledge, they give you the coaching, the mentoring, accompanying you, going outside with you even sometimes to meetings. They help you become the best version of yourself much faster with less mistakes, which means less money wasted. So if I was an agent interviewing offices, I would ask, what is the onboarding plan? What are you teaching me? How do I get taught? Okay, so the region is offering me a course. Okay, but what are you doing in the office for me?
Region means the
The head office, right?
yeah.
Okay, so
Master franchise.
Master franchise.
Yes.
So I get a training. Okay, but what in the office? What am I getting from you? I come to work. What happens? Someone works with me. My goals, my plan. What if I'm having troubles getting the listing, objections?
Maybe who are the top producers? What are the results of the top producers?
Yes, I would like to
inspire
know.
me?
I would like to know. But I will tell you personally, yes, it's always nice if the office has successes and has shown success in working with other agents. But for me, it would be very important. What do I get personally from you that can help me succeed? What kind of mentoring, coaching, help? Other facilities, maybe you have someone who helps me with technology, someone that helps me with listings, uploading them to websites. I want to see how you are becoming a platform for me that saves me money, saves me time, and makes my journey to success easier. Another thing that people don't know that they should ask, but is what happens if I have a client who's selling a house in Bucharest and moving to Cluj? So there's two transactions here, but I work in Bucharest. How do I help this person in Cluj? Because if he doesn't buy here, he will be hesitant to sell here, and then I will lose everything. So in a network that is national, that has offices all over the place, we have something that's called a referral. A referral is a money-making operation that allows you to say to this client in Bucharest, oh, you want to buy in Cluj? I have a great person for you in Cluj. They will help you over there with everything that you need. Let me take care of your sale.
Power of network.
Exactly, they will take care of your purchase. And then when they buy a house in Cluj, not only do you have a happy customer who completed the transaction, relocated his life, and you gave him service all across this process, you also get money from the referral that you gave to this agent. So you have another earning potential.
Yeah, and this is available also outside the country. For example,
Yes, global
Tel Aviv,
referrals.
Bucharest. Or
Yes, global referrals. I would be, in Remax it's ironic, but we are looking for people who care about themselves, okay, who care about their own interests, their own pockets, their own success, because we know that if you're motivated by your own success, we can give you an environment that allows you to excel. And if you do your best work, everybody wins. The other agents in the office, the broker owner, the network, everybody wins. So my tip for you, if you want to go into real estate and you want to find different places, maybe you want to interview different options, look for the place that serves you the most. That gives you the best tools, the best education, the best mentoring, the best options to make more money. And that's where I would set up my operation.
super. What about the exclusive representation? Because in our market, this is a kind of, new trend, new, I don't know,
Yes.
way of doing things in real estate from agent side. We promote a lot this, I don't know, strategy or way of doing business. But what is your perspective, and how do you work in? How was the evolution in Israel, and how is the situation now?
Well, I'm happy you asked that.
Okay.
Because it's one of the most important topics, both for customers, by the way, and for agents. Because customers are the ones who don't want to work in exclusive representation because they're afraid that it's negative for them. So the resistance comes, maybe, I've been able to train all over the world, and people in many countries, they tell me, yeah, this is good for America, but it's not going to work in my country. This exclusive thing, it's too American. And usually when people say this to me, it's while they're eating a McDonald's and drinking a Coke, and then they say to me, it's too American. American things, they have the way of working because they're pro-client, they're pro-customer. The funny thing about exclusivity, it's the best way for a customer to sell their home.
Why?
I'm not looking about the agent at all. If it's good for the agent, bad for the agent, I don't care. I care about the customer. I'll explain to you why. Because you want the best deal. You want to make the most money from the sale. You want to sell your home for the most value, maybe in good terms with a negotiation. And you think that if you work in an open listing, the other way, that is very common in many countries, you have more chances because you have
Open listings means
4
working
agents,
with
6
many agents. Yes.
7 agents, and also you can sell on your own. So if I'm a homeowner, I look at this scenario and I say, okay, one is exclusive, one agent, and I cannot sell on my own because I have to pay him anyway. Other option is as many agents as I want, and I don't have to pay them because I can sell on my own if they're all terrible. Sounds natural for me to go to this option, right?
It should be
Sounds
paradise.
much safer. But this is the greatest irony, and open listing is probably the worst way to sell your home, and I would prefer for you to sell it on your own without an agent. Explain to you why. First of all, there's a conflict of interest. As a homeowner, you want to get the best price, best deal. If I work with you on an open listing, best price, best deal doesn't speak to me because I need a fast deal with my client, with my buyer. And I know that I'm in a competition, I'm in a race. You're working with 4 other agents, we're also pushing clients on you, and you are selling on your own, but you have an unfair advantage. Because if I bring you a client, I have to pay to take a commission from this client. If this same client comes to you directly, they don't pay anything because you're the homeowner. So I have a crazy competition here, an unfair competition with you and other agents. So if I have a buyer that looks half ready to buy your home, I push him to you and I say, oh, you gotta sign with this guy. But you say, no, this guy is amazing, but I have to get the deal done. How do I get a deal done? Okay, I have to put pressure on you. You have to take the price down. So there's a conflict of interest, and it has nothing to do with the personality of the agent. I want to believe that the agent is a good person, is a loyal person, is an honest person, but the model forces him to push you to close a deal because his interest is the fastest deal, your interest is the best deal. They don't work together. That's a small part. Now another part. Marketing. You say, okay, if I work with 4 agents, it's 4 times more buyers than 1 agent. That's simple mathematics, right? Wrong. Because if we work in an open listing, first of all, I don't have a lot of motivation to promote your home because I know that there's a good chance that I don't sell it. You're going to sell it on your own or another agent. How much money am I going to spend on it? The worst thing is, listen carefully. We have this in Israel every day. You want to sell your home for the marketing price of 150,000 euros. That's the marketing price. You sign, or not sign, you give me the listing as an open listing, but you give it to 4 other agents. We are all advertising in immobiliare.ro, okay? So, and we have 4 ads running for your house on the same portal, me and my other agents, okay?
Different ads.
Different ads, but for the same listing,
Yeah,
listing.
but different pictures, different prices, different description.
Okay, wait, this is the big one.
Yeah.
Your house is 3 bedrooms, 80 square meters on the 2nd floor. This I cannot change. These are facts of life. So our ads look very similar, but I want the person to call me and not the other 3 agents who are advertising your listing, same pictures, same data. How do I get them to call me? I change the price. I don't tell you this, but I put 145,000. And then the other agent says, oh, no, I need the leads. Suddenly it's 142. And you can't even follow. We have this in Israel where we take a print screen from a portal and bring it to the sellers and show them, listen, this is how your house is being advertised. 3 different ads, 3 different prices. Do you know who really likes this? The buyer. Because the buyer says, there's a party here. And then what happens is, why people don't like sometimes real estate agents, because the agent brings the buyer to the home and the seller is there sitting in the kitchen. And then the buyer says to the agent, so you say 142, right? And the seller is like, what? Who said 142? And then he's like, where did we get 152? No, you don't understand. It's between me and him. So that's the second thing, which is terrible about open listings. There's no cooperation because you have to control the buyer and the seller. It's a double-ended deal. And you can't really create competition between buyers because you don't cooperate, you don't work together with other agents. So if I'm a seller, and I was a seller, actually it's a real life story, I would sell 100% exclusively, not because RE/MAX tells me to, but because it's for my interest. And by the way, if we go back to America, so in America you can sell a house exclusively or as an open listing. Open listings exist in America. Nobody does this because the American clients are very self-serving. They're not going to commit suicide by giving the agents an open listing. They will say, I will work with you exclusively. By the way, do you know for which commission? Do you know more or less? In the US,
big, like
6-7%.
6-7%.
Easily. In Canada, in the US, 6-7% from the seller's side. And believe me, they're not doing it as charity. They understand the value that they get in return. So exclusive listings for me, something that I'm very passionate about, but I understand the challenge. I understand the challenge both for the homeowners to understand and for the agents.
What are the benefits for the homeowner to work with one agent?
So they get maximum advertising because the agent, what happens in an exclusive listing? I, as the agent, get one thing guaranteed, that the deal will flow through me, and I have a commission guaranteed if I sell the home from you, the homeowner. This relaxes me. But not relaxes me to the point of not working. It relaxes me that I can cooperate with everybody because my commission is guaranteed. I can show the house to anyone, anytime, other agents. No one can go around me, okay? So I cooperate with everybody. I market the house like crazy because I want to sell it the best
With all
possible
the
way.
details, address, pictures,
Yes, I'm not
because
afraid.
on the other side,
Exactly.
no pictures, no location.
There's one ad on the portal, so there's no confusion about the pricing and anything like this. And I have the patience to wait for the best possible customer. I don't have to sell it tomorrow to get a commission. I can tell you, listen, Razvan, we're not there yet. We just started. Yes, we had an interesting buyer come here yesterday, but I have a lot of phone calls and I have 2 tours for tomorrow. Let's wait. Let's try to see if we can get these people to compete. So I give you the best service, best advice, and then I can create a competition, not only between my clients, but another agent brought me their buyer and another agent brought, I don't care. I serve you and I get your commission. I don't care who I sell the house to. This agent, that agent, I don't care. And that's why if you are someone who cares about their pocket, their success, and selling their home for the best possible price, you have to do it exclusively. You have to choose the right agent. This I agree
this
with
is
you, but
important,
I go
yes.
back to your last question. How do you recognize a professional agent? Yes, interview the agent. It's a serious decision. Screen them, ask them tough questions. And if you think they're up to a higher standard, hire them exclusively. Worst case scenario, sell the house on your own. Don't do open listing. It will backfire. It's a boomerang.
So this is the last option. I mean, the last.
For me, again, personally, when we trained this in Israel, and in Israel we had a huge challenge with sellers and with agents. They didn't believe that it's possible to get, by the way, when Remax came to Israel, there was a very famous professor in the Tel Aviv University who went on an interview in an economics show, and he said, Remax, we just saw in the news that Remax is coming to Israel, they will not succeed. Why?
Wow.
Israelis will not give exclusive listings, and Remax is based on exclusive listings. They're doomed to fail from the beginning. So he was wrong a little bit, because people who are good customers will work exclusively. And that's what happened in Israel. And again, it goes back to working with great agents who you screen, you make sure they're up to your standard, and for me, that's the best way to sell.
Super. I know that you have a huge percentage of exclusive representation. That most
Yes.
of the transactions,
Yes.
the sales, it's made on this I don't know way strategy.
Absolutely.
And yeah, we learn a lot from.
What I wanted to say is that when we train our agents in Israel, we always tell them the famous story about Hernan Cortez, who took a huge navy from Spain to the American shores to explore the newfound continent, Central America. And when his people landed from they disembarked from the ships, he gave an order to burn the ships, which means take away the third option. It gave them, instead of the option to retreat, his soldiers had only 2 options left. They could fight and win, or they could fight and die. And they chose to fight and win. And big surprise, everybody speaks Spanish in Central America. So I guess they won. But the message here is that sometimes the third option needs to be taken away from the table in the mind, even in the mind of the salesperson and then in the customer's mind. Because I would really recommend, honestly, I would recommend a client, if you are considering an open listing, sell on your own. Really, I didn't convince you to work with me exclusively. I respect that. Sell on your own.
Good
And
luck.
I will not work with you in an open listing because I would be giving you a bad service.
Cool, excellent. If we move a little bit higher, I mean, on the professional level,
Yes.
and we think about the owners of a real estate office,
Brokers, yes.
brokers, broker owners.
Yes.
What is important for a person that is interested to enter in this industry and to open an, let's say, real estate agency?
Well, that's a fascinating subject
Because it's a very hot
Yes.
industry now. There are a lot of money in this industry. Our market, your market are growing, developing.
Yes.
So maybe there are a lot of opportunities here. So
I think it's a great opportunity, but I'll need to explain why. First of all, starting up a business is always a challenge, right? Because you have costs. Interestingly, the biggest costs you usually have in a business is inventory, suppliers, vendors, and salaries. In Remax, in our model, you almost don't have these very big expenses when you set up an office because the inventory is the listings that your agents, you train them to get. Yes, you work with some suppliers, of course, but it's not like working a restaurant or having a line of credit with big vendors.
Having stock.
And of course, salaries. This business is based on independent free contractors who work in your office. So the salaries that you will eventually have to pay are very limited. Maybe your professional staff, maybe a secretary and so on. So the model is smart. And then if you want to go into business, again, I would be looking for guidance. I would be looking to replicate a system that already works. This is why McDonald's is successful, Dunkin' Donuts, all these franchising industries, because they have a model that can be replicated. Someone did it before, and then another person, and then the 500th person who comes into the industry, they get the benefit of the 499 who came before them. So what I like about the opportunity that you have in RE/MAX as a broker owner is that you can set up a very, very profitable business, theoretically, right? Of course, you have to do it to make it profitable, but the potential is there. The industry is hot. The field is very interesting, but you get the support of a network that is global, that is European, and that is local, that is very, very strong, has a lot of experience and a lot of success stories that we can tell you not only what to do, but listen carefully, we can tell you what not to do. Sometimes it's understanding which mistakes to avoid is more important than what's the right thing to do. So it's a shortcut for success, like I said before. And I think, again, it combines, we have broker owners who enjoy RE/MAX because it's a tool for them to influence other people. Because in an office, you're like a mentor, right? You're a mentor for other business people. And it's a calling. It's something that gets a lot of people excited that you're able to affect the lives of people, help them earn more money, and have better lives. So there's a great calling here that you can fulfill in a RE/MAX office. Also, it's a good business. And it's a great opportunity for you to make more money yourself. So for me, it's an opportunity that, at the least, very important to hear about.
Yeah, it's. I mean, there are a lot of nice stories, success stories, and I am very proud to have colleagues. I mean, agents and also brokers that they build a lifetime career, starting like 8 years ago, coming from, I don't know, different professions without background in this industry. And now they are very successful because we provide them a very strong brand, very large and important network that offer them the opportunity to collaborate and to learn, and a very strong support system. So that's
absolutely,
yeah,
great opportunity.
So how do you see from outside, as a wise guy traveling around the world and talking with other countries and real estate industry, how do you see Romania as a I don't know, real estate market? How do you see these opportunities?
I can talk with much
because we are here, so we cannot
yes,
see
so
ourselves.
I'll give you the perspective from the outside. You're also very modest, so someone else needs to say these things. I don't know the real estate market in Romania. I know RE/MAX in Romania because I have the perspective from day one when you guys started. Building a RE/MAX region is not an easy thing to do. But I think from the beginning, like I told you, you were very focused on education. And the team was basically you, Julian, who's an educator, trainer, which was probably the first team member, and of course marketing, things like this. But this was the core of the business. When I came here for the first time, and we had this very small event where the entire network fit in one small training room.
A classroom.
Yes, we didn't know what the future is. But what I did know is that I think we have good people here in the organization, without knowing the market and the challenges and everything, that can probably make it happen. And then I came here again and again. I think it's more than 20 times now in the last 8 years. And what I was able to see is that the success of RE/MAX Romania comes from the people who run it. And once I said it in a convention, you were like, oh no, I don't understand why you say these things. But the people who run this region have a very clear vision where they want to take it. And the results are now beyond dispute. Okay, so now you are 800 members, right?
Yes.
It's unbelievable, from 30 to 800 in 8 years. That's unbelievable growth. You had a record year last year,
Yeah,
right?
we had a fantastic. We almost doubled the business, and yeah, we are proud about this.
So 800 members, biggest by far in Romania. There's no competition even close in these numbers, covering the whole country, all the cities more or less. So I think now, even for people who are hesitating, this is proof of concept that Remax Romania is here, is strong, is here to stay. And like I told you personally many times, I trained in other places, were less successful, and I saw the differences. I saw that the implementation wasn't happening. They were going sometimes to trainings, but they were not implementing. What I see in Remax Romania is a lot of implementations, systems. You have great technology that you keep developing all the time. Superior training. Nobody does training like you guys by far. Definitely not in this industry. So you have powerful training, powerful technology, big network, a lot of cooperation, potential for referrals, giving customers good service wherever they are. There's no hesitation. That's
So
the time to join.
The future is bright.
I'm 100% sure that the future is bright because you're building now the infrastructure for the next step of growth. And I know that you will get to these numbers of 1,000 and then 1,500 and 2,000 members. It will happen. And the power of the brand, the recognition is growing all the time. So, you know, it's like a stock when it's rising. Now it's a good time to jump into the
To join
ship.
us,
Yes,
to join
absolutely.
us in this big family, because it's much more than a national one. It's a global one, and we have a lot of stars like you to give us
Yes, I come whenever I'm
a
invited.
burst of energy.
Sometimes I come without being invited. I'm just
Pop
show
up,
up here.
ta-da.
Yes, yes.
Cool. I was thinking about support, and from as I know, you are also kind of passionate about marketing and technology. Why is
Yes.
this important? Because we live in a 21st century, and we discussed a lot about technology
Yes.
in our meetings.
Well, first of all, marketing is very simple, is that as one person, your ability to influence and make yourself known is limited because of the budget that you're willing to spend, regardless of where you want to do it, on Instagram, Facebook, social media, Google, or offline marketing. So when you join a recognized brand, what is the game of marketing? Marketing is creating awareness that leads to preference, that leads to choice. So I know who you are, then I prefer you, then I choose you. When you join Remax, you already passed the stage of awareness almost immediately because the brand is already known. So then you only need to work on preference and choice. So that's like very easy for me. It lowers your costs when you join a recognized brand, and also not only your costs but your focus. Because as one person,
Yeah, interesting.
doing things on your own, so difficult, all these balls in the air,
Yeah,
marketing,
yeah.
sales, service to the customers, showing the listings, getting more listings, but also doing marketing, putting up posts, boosting them. It's a lot of work.
It's like outsourcing the marketing.
Yes,
I don't know,
that's one thing. And
issue.
with technology, again, you can enjoy the power of a huge brand that invests in technology. You have the CRM that you supply to your agents, which is something that you developed, and I get it as a new agent, ready-made for me,
Yes.
with all the experience, with all the knowledge that's put into it, custom-made, tailored to real estate. So again, another shortcut, a lot of shortcuts. And the good thing about being part of Remax is that I can take care of my business, and I know that people like you and your tech people are always looking for the big best thing that is coming out, the next technology, the 3D tours, the virtual, the virtual
Yeah,
staging.
the best suppliers. I
Yes,
mean,
because you get information from Remax International.
Yes.
And they know what's coming up in the US. We give you the knowledge of what's happening, so you don't have to worry about it. And you just do your thing. Get listings, sell listings.
Yeah, if you speak about technology, you are much more advanced. I mean, historically, I mean, you have 4 years and
Yes.
a bigger
27.
network, a bigger expertise. But from as I understood, technology, it's important on two sides. One for managing the business, and one for promoting
Yes.
the you know the for marketing
Yes.
the product. I mean the properties. Also about marketing. What about the personal brand? Because is it important, personal branding as a real estate professional?
Well, we always say that.
Because we are between a culture of personal branding and a culture of 007 agent, like a hidden agent.
Ah, okay.
So
No, so the beautiful thing about Remax is that we train our agents to use the Remax brand to promote themselves. Again, we are looking for people who want to promote themselves and they want to make the most out of their own potential. So we don't want you to hide under Remax, because we want you to help use Remax to help you shine. Okay, so you use the balloon, you use the logo, you use all these things because they're very recognizable, and we give you all the templates and all the tools, and it's also very easy. But we want people to choose eventually to work with you on a personal level, because the brand is strong, that's great, but when you knock on a door and you walk into the house, the brand doesn't get the listing exclusively. It's the person that you are in contact with. People don't say, okay, look, this person looks a bit, no, he's not right in the head, but he's from Remax, he's got a nice pin. Yeah, let's work exclusively. It doesn't work like this. They want great professionals. So our best agents, they brand themselves. They use the logos, of course. They use Remax because it opens the door, but they also make sure that they know how to create their own unique value. We have agents in Israel who have their own vlogs and their own YouTube channels and their own like personal branding and stuff like this. We don't care. We think as long as they know how to combine the two for the maximum value, that's the best way to use the Remax platform.
yeah, it's a people business, and emotional connection is very important. So that's why we think also as part of this brand that building trust, it's very important, and personal branding it's exactly what it's the most important thing in building trust in the market. Coming back to the market, what do you think about the near future? How do you see this year, 2022?
Okay, so the market always corrects itself. And at least in Israel, but I understand it's a bit of a global thing, but at least in Israel, the market was overactive in the last year and a half. It's not artificial because it cannot be artificial. People were really buying and they were really selling, but it was fueled by low interest rates, very easy to get mortgages, and the mortgages are cheap, and also like we said, the pressure cooker from COVID-19 and all the lockdowns.
We also had high inflation in
So
this part of Europe, so it's added, I don't know.
So inflation is starting to rise in Israel as well, which means that interest rates are going to go up, which means that mortgages will become more expensive, and I definitely see the market slowing down to more of an equilibrium that is sustainable. Every country has its own equilibrium. In Israel, it will still be very active because we don't have enough listings, but it will calm down a little bit, I believe, in 2022. I still think that we will not see, in Israel for sure, a price decrease. I don't see this. Maybe it will be much more moderate. The increases would be maybe in single digits, 2%, 3%, 4%. But real estate is always the best investment. It's always the best property to have.
On long term, on
Yes.
medium long term.
Yes, the market corrects itself. It's
Yes.
natural.
And what would you recommend for, let's say, for acquisition as a small investor? Because we have small investors like family
Yes, of course.
investments, like individuals that they want to invest their money. What do you think it's one of the most important issue?
When they want to buy real estate for
Yes.
investment. So they need to ask themselves, first of all, what are they in for? Do they need the immediate return on investment, which is the rent? Are they looking for the long game, which could be the exit, upgrading the house and selling it a few years later for more money? What is their main focus? So if it's return on investment, they need to look for a house in a place where there's easy for rent, students, young families, where the rents are very easy, so they don't have to, the house doesn't stay empty. That's very important for them. And then they may get a lower annual ROI, right? The percentage of return on investment per year would be lower, but it would be safer. The riskier ones, the ones that have money to spend and don't need the immediate return on investment because they are paying out of their own pockets, they should buy on paper. On paper always goes up. If you buy a new development and you buy it 4
Yeah.
years before it's ready.
From plan.
Yes, and then you sell it 2 years later when it's still on paper, but it's already in construction, you always make nice appreciation of good percentages, or they can take the longer risks. For example, in Israel, you would go for anywhere near the ocean. Israel has a very long coastline.
Yes.
Some of it is very cheap because it's old. Some of it is very cheap. Yes, you should take notice of it. Maybe
Really?
you want to buy there. So the north part is very, very cheap compared to the rest of the country because it's old construction and it's close to the
North is Haifa, no?
Haifa, close to the port, close to industries, military bases, a lot of oil and like the smell of chemicals in the air. So you can find houses for very cheap that are first line, second line, third line from the ocean. The thing is this, these houses will be torn down eventually because they're from the 50s and the 60s and they will be replaced with new buildings and the price will jump dramatically.
Yeah,
If
because
you
they
can-
have the location.
Yes, if you can sit on money and say, I don't need it tomorrow. I'm here for 10 years, for 8 years, then you should look for the variables in the location that are guaranteed to give you a value increase. Again, in Romania it could be different because the ocean, the line is different and maybe other factors.
Yeah, we
are
have
more
other
attractive.
factors. Yeah, we have the mountains, for example. Or we have the many other landscape and so on.
Yes, but people sometimes are afraid of the old buildings, the bad neighborhoods. Time will take care of them.
Yeah.
If it's old, it will be renovated, and then there is changing of populations. Real estate will pay you back.
Cool. Why should an investor, a buyer, would work with an agent? Because we mix the subjects. but-
Investors is easy. First of all, a lot of investors buy properties not in the same city, sometimes not even in the same country where they live. So they have to have someone there with eyes. Second thing is you want good advice. Third thing, you want someone to run the house. Once you buy it, someone needs to take care of the renters and small things. I don't think you want to do it on your own. And today people are really careful about their time. They don't want to drive from one city to another city to just open the door and find a plumber for the leak. So an agent gives you an all-inclusive service. They should give you an all-inclusive service. And so you know that you're making a good deal, good price, good return on investment, and quiet. Everything will take care of itself. And so for investors, it's almost a default. If they're really smart players, to work with agents. We have agents in Israel who are specialized in investment. They know how to service these customers, and it's important.
They understand the way of, I don't know, thinking, of an
Yes,
investor thinking.
Exactly.
They understand figures.
Yes,
Yeah,
they can give you the
they know
analysis.
the market, they know the opportunities in the...
Our good agents will even tell you what you need to do. They will tell you need to buy this house, you're going to need to
Yeah.
renovate the kitchen. It will cost you X, but you have to renovate it if you want to rent it for X amount of money. And we have really amazing agents who work with investors that really take care of all their needs.
On a long-term perspective, do you see some changes in I don't know, customer preference? I mean, in the way of living, you know, because let me help
Yes.
you. We saw in the last 2 years a new perspective of moving from the city center, from the small apartments somewhere outside. Of course, we have different countries, different landscape, different lifestyle, but we saw people preferring to
Open spaces
Yeah, open
and-
spaces like houses. Do you have this?
Yeah, we
I
had
don't
this
know.
reaction to COVID-19 as well, where people were locked in their houses and they didn't have a balcony or they didn't have a yard to go out to. So we saw the same thing, but I don't think it's a permanent thing. People were more important to them to have a room to work inside their home, like a home office, because they saw that they do a lot of work from home. So these things are maybe now new factors that people didn't think about, but I don't know if it's like a change of direction. I do think it's a different question, but I'll give you the answer anyway, that people are using real estate agents more than in the past. And I can see that in the numbers. The percentage of people who buy or sell a home in Israel with a real estate agent is constantly growing. And I think that's a change in behavior. But it's not a miracle. It's not like it came from nowhere. It's because they get better value.
It's a need.
It's a need when you get value. And always people say, no, but it's in the US, it's not fair. It's more than 90% people who work with real estate agents. You can't really compare. Yes, but they don't know that in the 70s, which is only 50 years ago, the numbers were the same in the United States as they are in Europe in many countries, but many for sale by owners. So what happened there? They were getting value suddenly. The networks, if it's Remax, but also the other networks, were giving much more value. And suddenly you have 90% using real estate agents. It's not a miracle. It's not a magic act. You give good service, people will pay for it and they will use you.
So it's clear that that this profession it has a very bright future.
Yes, absolutely.
Because it offers a lot of advantages, even the advantage of doing your own program, agenda, it's also an important one. Also the opportunity of having important incomes and no?
Mm-hmm. I think the future is bright. Some people say, oh, the technology will replace real estate agents eventually.
What do you think?
I think it's exactly the opposite, and the last 2 years proved that to us, because the last 2 years were all about technology, remote technology, Zooms and everything. So you say, oh, that's the momentum that everybody's looking for to replace real estate agents, but actually the business of real estate agents, like you said, doubled, if not more, during the last 2 years, because it's different. Real estate is very unique. Okay, every house is a unique adventure. It has an emotional attachment to it for the buyer, for the seller. You have to have the human element in there. Statistics don't cover it, because you can statistically compare listings and say, okay, I don't need you for pricing. There's software that to do this for me. In the US, they call it Zestimates, right, from Zillow. I can use a software to say, okay, 80 square meters, okay, the average is, click, and then they just take all the similar sales in the area. It doesn't work like this, because it cannot calculate the view from the living room, the renovation, if it's front to the street or the back. All these small factors make a huge difference. That's where you need the human element to help you make this decision. And also it's a huge psychological journey to sell a home, to buy a home, all this stuff. The human element is critical, and it's become more critical in the last 2 years where everything became digital. You saw how much you need the real estate agent. So I know for sure this profession has great future.
Yeah, that's my feeling too.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
But you have to be really good.
We are.
Absolutely.
But we want to be better.
Yes.
So what is, because we are close to the 60 minutes, what is your final, let's say, thought or advice for the real estate agents in Romania, Remax and non-Remax, about building, a prosper future career in this field?
Well, if they're already in the industry or if they're considering the industry, it's the same for me. First of all, be passionate about it. Take yourself very seriously, because it's an investment of your time, of your efforts, of your resources, and choose the right place to set up your business where education is the focus, customer service is the focus, where you get great support from all around you, so you have the best chance to succeed. It's a very competitive market. There are a lot of agents. There are also, like we said, like people who try to sell and buy without an agent. It's very competitive. I think it's good. Competition makes us better. So you need to choose the place that helps you become the best version of yourself. And from my experience working the last 8 years with Remax of Romania and knowing personally a lot of the success stories on the agent level, on the broker level, I think that you should at least entertain and investigate the option of joining Remax Romania.
Awesome! Thank you!
My pleasure!
It was my pleasure too! Bun, dragilor, am terminat cele 60 de minute, nici nu știu cum au trecut. A fost o adevărată plăcere să-l ascult pe Gil. A fost o discuție complet nepregătită, deci sper că ați extras cât de mult din ea. Dar în continuare țineți aproape de 60 de minute cu Remax. Și ce mai? Dacă nu sunteți deja în Remax, haideți să bem o cafea împreună și să vedem cum putem să vă ajutăm. Fie că vreți să intrați în industria asta sau probabil veți să beneficiați de serviciile unor agenți. Mulțumesc frumos și ne vedem data viitoare!